this video, I'm going to introduce the concept of the nth root of a number. In mathematics, the symbol of the nth root is something like this, with a root sign, and then before that we have this little n here. In junior forms, we have already learned about the concept of square roots. So let's say, for example, now we want to find out the square root of 64. And we know that the result is 8, because 8 squared is equal to 64. And because of this number 2 here, sometimes we will call square root the second root. So that means, here in this example, the second root of 64 is equal to 8, because 8 squared is equal to 64, or 8 to the power of 2 is equal to 64. By following the same logic, we can actually develop the concepts of other types of roots. For example, we can have third root of a number. Let's say, now we want to find the third root of 64, and the symbol is like this. We have a root sign here, and then you put a little 3 here. So it means the third root of 64. So the value here is a number after raising a power of 3 to it. It will give us a value of 64. So we need to ask ourselves, what number should we put here so that after raising this to a power of 3, it will give us 64? Quite obvious that it should be 4 here, because we know that 4 to the power of 3 is equal to 64. So that means the third root of 64 should be equal to 4. This result can be confirmed by using our calculator. Okay, now we want to find out the third root of 64. We can actually use the calculator to help us. You can find out the button third root here. So you just need to press Shift and then press this button, and this is the third root. So you just put a number here, 64, and then close the bracket, and then press EXE. And it will give us the value of 4. So that means the third root of 64 is equal to 4. So this can be actually calculated by using our calculator. Similarly, we can actually talk about the fourth root of a number. So let's say now we want to find the fourth root of 64. That means we need to find out a number after raising a power of 4, and it will give us a value of 64. So what number should this one be? So we can use the calculator to help us. This time you cannot find a fourth root button on this calculator. So we need to use this X root button here. Shift and then you press this button, and then you will get X and then a root sign. You just need to type 4 before this X, and this will mean the fourth root of a number. So we press 64, close the bracket, and then press EXE, and you will find out the number is 2.82 something. This is not integer and not even rational. And then we know that this number 2.8284 something is the fourth root that we need, because 2.8284 something to the power 4 is 64. We can actually confirm this by using the calculator. Okay, so the power 4 of this is 64. So that's why this number is the fourth root of 64. When we talk about the concept of roots, then we need to know that sometimes there may be two roots of a number, one positive and one negative. For example, 8 squared is equal to 64. And we also know that minus 8 squared is also equal to 64. So that means for 64, there are two square roots. One square root is 8 and the other one is minus 8. And the notation root 64, it does not refer to both roots. Actually, this number just refers to the positive one. It only refers to one of the roots. And for the other root, we will use the symbol minus root 64 to represent this. So that means this root, it only means one of the root. It will never mean both roots. Let's take a look at an example. Let's say we know that x to the power 4 is equal to 625. So in order to find out x, it can be easily found by taking the fourth root of 625. However, we know that there should be two roots here, one positive and one negative. And this only refers to the positive one. So we should know that there is another answer which is negative. And we can take the fourth root with the help of our calculator. And then we know that the value here is 5. So here we know that the value here is 5 or minus 5. So that means we know that 5 to the power 4 is equal to 625. And moreover, we also know that minus 5 to the power 4 is also equal to 625. And let's take a look at another example here. Let's say now, I want to find out the value of x if x to the power 3 is equal to 8. Then the value of this x can be easily found by taking the third root of 8. However, different from what we have done before, we should not consider the negative root here. And the answer should only be 2, but not minus 2. The reason here is because 2 to the power 3 is equal to 8. But minus 2 to the power 3 is equal to minus 8, which is not the value 8. So that means here in this case we only have one root, but not both roots. But in this case we have two roots, one positive and one negative. So to conclude, if the power concerned is even, like in this case, the power is even, then we will have two roots, one positive and the other one negative. And if the power is odd, like what we did in this case, there will only be one root. So please do not confuse with these two cases. Now let's take a look at these four examples. For the first one, we need to find out the value of x if x to the power 3 is equal to 125. So here we should know that the value of x can be easily found by taking the third root of 125. And since the power here is odd, that means there is only one root. We do not need to consider its negative root. So the value here is the third root of 125, and we can use the calculator to help us. So the value here should be 5. A simple one. And for the other one, we know that x to the power 4 is equal to 1296. So the value of x can be easily found by taking the fourth root of 1296. And since the power here is even, that means we need to consider another root, which is negative. Okay, now we can use the calculator to help us to get the fourth root here. And we know that the value here is 6. So that means x should be 6 or minus 6. There are two roots because we have an even power here. And now let's take a look at this. These two questions are similar, except that we have a minus sign here. We have 125 here, but we have minus 125 here. So we can do it in the same way. the value of x can be found by taking the third root of -125. And since we have an odd power here, there is no need to consider another root. There is only one root only. So the value here is the third root of -125, and the calculator can help us to get -5 here. So the value is -5. So there is only one root here, which is negative. And for this example, there is also only one root here, but this time this is positive. And now let's take a look at the last example. X to the power 4 is -1296. These two questions are similar, but here we have a minus sign here. This one we have no minus sign here. So here, in order to find out the value of x here, we can take the fourth root here. But when we use our calculator to take the fourth root of -1296, we can see that there is a math error. That means there should be no real solution. Because we cannot find out any real number after raising a power of 4 to it, which will give us a negative value. So that means for this type of question, if you know that the power here is even, but the result is a negative number, then we already know that there is no real solution and there is no need to do any further calculation.